What kind of government do you want? From federal all the way down to municipal. What kind of government do you want? Do you want a liberal government or do you want a conservative government that operates on the behalf of the common good of the people? That's the question that comes into play here. Welcome back to the For Liberty and Justice podcast, where we seek to mobilize the church, wake up the city, and take a stand for liberty and justice. My name is Josh Moore, and I'm your host today on the For Liberty and Justice podcast. We're going to be talking about redistricting here in Tarrant County coming up in the next couple of weeks. That vote will be coming up. This is an incredibly important topic, so do me a favor, share this on your X account, your Instagram account, your Facebook, whatever social media account you have. Make sure you share it, click like on our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube account, and get the word out because this is very important. So let's get in the swing of it. And I want to start off with this first. So we're going to take this step by step, level by level. I've even tried to cut a video the other day that was like 4 minutes, and I still didn't have enough time to pack everything into that short 4 minutes. But here I can. And this redistricting is very important. So first, I want to back up really quick. What is redistricting and what's happening? Okay, so this has nothing really to do with statewide races. This has to do with more Tarrant County local level stuff. But that's why it's important because as you've probably watched us before on our previous podcast episodes, we've talked a lot about local level issues. And it's super important because that's where your tax rate is set. That's where at least the majority of it, that's where contracts are made. That's where the majority of your money is spent and pulled in and the revenue, so on and so forth. All of those things, very, very important. In fact, I was just having a conversation with someone the other day who started telling me that I'm glad Trump is in office. He's going to reset the country and he's been in office 6 months already. He's going to reset the country and it's going to be great. And I reminded him, reset the country? The man is one man, and we're fighting against 100+ years of tyranny where the left has infiltrated our government, our schools, our libraries, our families, our churches, entertainment, music. I mean, you name it across the board. Everything has been taken over by them. And it's because we've ceded the local level. So back to the redistricting and why that's important. The redistricting focuses on Tarrant County because that's what we're talking about. And I just want to specify something here real quick because this is super important. So you have the county judge, and then you have precinct chairs, or I should say precinct commissioners. And these are county commissioners. That's their official title. And so you have 4 of those. So just like any other governing body, you have an unequal number of people sitting on the board or in that body of government so that when there is a vote, there is always going to be a majority vote, even if it's one person more. So in this case, you have 4 county commissioners and you have 1 county judge. And that county judge is Tim O'Hare. You've probably heard of his name before. Let me start off by saying this man is a good man. Judge Tim O'Hare, I've personally met him. Pastor and Representative Nate Schatzline is behind him. This man has been standing for truth, for freedom, for our county, cutting budget. I just heard him the other night, personally spoke with him myself, and he had a lot of wonderful things to talk about the county and things they've done just in the last 2 years. I mean, they've cut $58 million out of the county budget. That's huge, folks. $58 million? That is a big deal. So he's accomplished that. He's accomplished a number of different things. A lot of it's fiscally related in making sure that all obviously good judges are getting in on the benches. And I'm going to go through some of these duties, not all of the duties, but some of them, and especially of those duties that affect what we're going to be talking about today. So you have, again, 4 county commissioners. Now you have Matt Krause, and I don't exactly remember. I think he's District 3. In fact, he is, Precinct 3. So Matt Krause is Precinct 3. He was the former representative of House District 93, which is the same district that Representative Nate Schatzline is over and represents. And then you have districts 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 2 are basically represented by, I think it's Robert Miles Jr., I believe is his name. His last name is Miles. And then you have Elisa Simmons. and then precinct 4 is Manny Ramirez, and so he's a Republican as well. Now here's the deal. So that's 4, and they say this is a nonpartisan race. Here, let me explain what nonpartisan is, because that matters here, and it matters especially in our political climate. Nonpartisan means there is no Republican or Democrat ticket. It is a ticket that does not specify party lines. You just list the names of the people that are running for that office, and you just vote for them. I think back years ago, I heard a lot of people say, we should just make it that way. Stop focusing on party lines. Party lines matter, though, because party lines help distinguish between what your ideology is. Now, maybe you may not completely align with the Democrats or completely align with the Republicans, but it gives you a general idea of what that looks like, the person running in their candidacy. So the fact remains, though, that just because there's no party lines on these ballots for the county commissioners and the county judge doesn't mean that they are not partisan. They very much are partisan. And we're going to get in a little bit on examples of how they're partisan. So what you have is Manny Ramirez and Matt Krause are both Republicans. Matt Krause is a very strong conservative, Christian conservative. So is Judge Tim O'Hare. Manny Ramirez, haven't chatted with him about it, but he's kind of moderate Republican. And then you have Miles, who comes across to me as pretty left-leaning liberal. But then you have Elisa Simmons, who is just about as far left as you can get, unfortunately. And I went to her town hall as well. And by the way, I just want everybody to know that, we're not here to mock anybody. We certainly don't believe that at For Liberty and Justice. We're not to mock anybody. We may mock ideas, because there are some ideas that are just ridiculous. They're foolish. They're silly. They're just crazy ideas, as a lot of people would say today, and those deserve to be mocked. Case in point, I wouldn't even say case, but I would say, that's why Babylon Bee exists, right? Their whole philosophy is bad ideas should be mocked. Yeah, I agree. They should be mocked. You have to expose these things and show them for what they are. So you have partisanship in these races, even though, again, they're not listed as R or D on the ballot, Republican or Democrat. But they do matter. They absolutely matter. And I'm going to go through some of the responsibilities of the commissioner's court and what they do with. So number 1 is they set the tax rate and adopt the county budget. That's very important. Setting the tax rate and adopting a county budget. There's a lot of county taxes. Also, in conjunction with the city council, there's a lot of things that can happen with approving or disapproving of a business going in, contracts, so on and so forth. I mean, this can apply to a lot of things relating to the homosexual LGBT movement and transgenderism. And keep in mind, this isn't just the county commissioners. This also goes to the school board and the city council. So these are very, very important. The second would be appointing county officials and hire personnel. Do we remember DEI? Yeah, that's still a thing today. So this is something that I know Judge Tim O'Hare has been focused on, purging DEI. That is diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is a very racist ideological view that basically says, hey, you should be hired and your value should be based on your skin color. That's it. That is straight up. It has nothing, absolutely zero to do with merit and all to do with your skin color. So Judge Tim O'Hare has been focused on getting rid of DEI and making sure that that's pushed out of the county and that we are ushering good governance in. Number 3, filling effective and appointive vacancies. Number 4, establishing voting precincts, appointment precinct judges, and call county bond elections. That's another very good one, as well as number 5, let contracts and authorize payments of all county bills. So it's a lot of fiscal stuff, but there's a lot of contractual things involved too. And by the way, over the decades, perhaps even the centuries, especially since Tarrant County became a county, don't ask me when that happened. I'm pretty sure it was the middle 1800s, but I could be wrong. But the point is that ever since then, you've had the growth of the county. And so now you have all these different responsibilities and authorities that have been delegated to the county officials. So fast forward, now you've got our money, our bonds, the judgeships, all these things that you wouldn't think are partisan or even directly affect what's happening with DEI or the LGBT movement or whatever it may be, that the left has just engaged hardcore into this area. They've done it with the school board, they've done it with the city council, with the mayor's race, and they're now trying to do it with the county commissioner. So we need to maintain the county commissioner. We need to maintain those spots, and we need to especially maintain the county judge, Tim O'Hare, in that spot. So that's some of the responsibilities. They do some other stuff that's a little less controversial, that has a slightly less effect on us, like maintaining county roads and bridges. I personally think it's an important one because I don't like to drive on bad roads. I don't know if anybody remembers, but a few years back, there was this Domino's joke that came out, and Domino's was kind of jokingly saying, hey, we're going to repair your potholes. Buy a pizza. We'll come by your neighborhood and repair a pothole. And everybody's like, oh, I'm ordering Domino's. It was pretty funny. But the point being is that, there's sort of this emphasis on delegating the community responsibilities to the private sector because the government is not doing what it's delegated to do in the first place. And in large part, I believe that's because they've been focused so much on hiring DEI personnel that they're focusing on skin color and not the condition of the road. So I suppose you could say it is kind of political in that way. But I want to, again, come full circle back to, what's at hand here. So I'm going to call out some of the arguments that have been used against Tim O'Hare and the more conservative commissioners on the county commissioner court. But I also want to talk about when these are coming up. So let's take a step back. There have been a total of 4 county commission town halls. So they were holding one in each precinct. And Alyssa Simmons, Robert Miles, I believe it was. Then you have Matt Krause, and you also have Manny Ramirez. Those 4 have each held one town hall in their precinct. And then there will be, there's currently 2, I believe, and there's going to be a third meeting coming up inside the physical commissioner's court on Weatherford Street in Fort Worth downtown. The next one coming up is June 3rd. We're going to hit that at the end of the episode here. We're going to cover that. But first, I want to make sure you are well aware and you know what's coming up. All the town halls are over with. They have all come and gone. It's going to be, I think it's about a total of a 6-week period, 5 to 6 week period that this has been happening. Maybe even a little bit less than that. But the chief arguments that have been made, one of them is there hasn't been enough time. And that might be somewhat true, perhaps. But you would have to go down the history and look at other commissioner courts and see how much time they gave. I'm not even going to rely on that for now. There's a chief argument that I'd like to make in favor of this redistricting, but I'm going to call out the arguments that have been made first. One of the big arguments they've made, or I should say arguments, is that it's racist. We are racist, and there is a map. There are 5 or 6 maps that have been created, and all of them, to some extent, are carving out minority neighborhoods and putting them in more conservative districts, thereby disallowing or enabling, I should say, more conservative votes in the more liberal districts. Maybe still electing, by the way, a liberal candidate, but also taking some of those liberals, which they would consider, by the way, minorities. So Black, Hispanic, all the, Chinese, whatever, Asian, you name it. That's their claim, is that you're taking enough of them and putting them in a conservative district that they don't have a voice representing them. Okay, so my rebuttal to this is probably yes, but that's not racist. That is not a racist thing. Has nothing to do with race whatsoever. I'll tell you what it has to do with. It has to do with politics. So let me define the words I'm using right now. Politics means city, state, city hyphen state. This is the relationship between people and their government officials. So therefore, we are to be represented by people that represent our values as a whole. There are going to be some people who are not directly represented by their values because they don't believe in the same thing that the candidate believes in. That's too bad. That just happens. It stinks sometimes. I've been in districts before where I was represented by really, really terrible people, or at the very least, people who had really terrible views. I sometimes think the two go in hand. There's a correlation there. But all that to say, yes, it is a political move. In fact, Commissioner Krause, just said the other day in his town hall, I want to be very clear. I support having a majority conservative court. The left freaked out. They said, see, you admit it. Well, yes, he admits it. Obviously, that's what's happening. I mean, it gets to the fundamental political question. What kind of government do you want? From federal all the way down to municipal. What kind of government do you want? Do you want a liberal government or do you want a conservative government that operates on the behalf of the common good of the people? That's the question that comes into play here. So he admitted that. He said it. I think that's totally fair. The left freaked out. They started shouting racism, bigotry. You're horrible. We don't want any of this. So you're doing it for your political reasons. And by the way, also you're racist and you're a horrible racist. And we should, do away with you, you disgusting racist. I mean, it's just always race. I also will say that Christian nationalism, but I'll get into that here in a second. So the first thing is it's racist. They don't want us. They don't want to have a conservative majority. They want to have a liberal majority, but they're not going to admit that. They're not going to admit that. Instead, they're going to say, you're trying to disenfranchise the minority groups, and this is a racist thing you're doing. It is emphatically not at all. Now, you can say all day, well, you're carving out certain neighborhoods and placing them in a conservative district. Okay, and that's called electing the leader. I mean, they have the power to do that, so they're going to do it. I believe personally, and this is where I separate myself from the ideologue type of view. An ideologue would say, for example, we should always do it according to population. Now, that is true to some extent. Yes, the district should be done according to population. But an ideologue would say it's always done according to population. I would say we should do it according to good governance. How do we get conservatives elected to office who believe in the common good of the people, who understand that God's moral law is to create the foundation for man's civil law? Now, that would really tick off the left. It does, in fact, because that's what they consider Christian nationalism. We'll get into that here in a moment. But that's my rebuttal to the entire racist argument. I think it's baloney. It's silly. I mean, in fact, it's kind of funny that they call it racist and they say we're racist, and yet there's a Hispanic on the commissioner's court. There's there's a black woman and a black man on the commissioner's court, and they all three together. By the way, that's also a bipartisan. So the Hispanic man is a Republican, and the black man and the black woman are Democrats. And so you've got different races or ethnicities, as I like to say it, right, representing two different parties that outnumber the two white Republicans on the commissioner's court. What gives? How is that racist? Legitimately, Tarrant County has more minorities on the commissioner's court than they do white people. Not that I care really about that, or anybody in For Liberty and Justice for that matter, but since the left cares so much about it, how are we racist as a county if that's what they put up? Doesn't make any sense to me. I know what they're getting at. To the left is racist. Now, maybe not every single person that considers themselves liberal or aligns with the Democratic Party is that way, but the party ethos is racist, and it's a problem. Now, that's not to say people can't be saved, forgiven. We embrace you. Please come in, accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. We want you to understand what God's word says about government and God's word says about family government as it relates to civil government. Now, I'm going to come back full circle a little bit here to the commissioner's court, and I'm answering these questions because in relation to what I'm talking about, because this matters. I mean, I've heard now hundreds of people speak over the last week and a half on this particular topic. And I've heard everything from racist to you're an idiot, you don't know numbers, to, Christian nationalism, which is a beautiful segue to my next point. The other argument they use is this is a Christian nationalist movement. They brought up mercy culture. Nobody's mentioned for liberty and justice, but they brought mercy culture up, saying we're trying to, they brought up also the justice reform, saying that Tim O'Hare aligns with the justice reform and that they're trying to turn victims of sex trafficking into radicalized extremist Christian evangelicals. My response to that is, yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's wrong with a radical, extreme Christian evangelical? Those very people created our nation that we are now losing. They didn't embrace slavery. They didn't embrace any of the junk that people talk about that they did or claim that they did. No, they worked tirelessly for decades to get rid of it, and eventually we did. So, do we want a Christian nation? Yes, because we were a Christian nation. Our laws don't really reflect that as much anymore, but the foundation of our country is Christian, and therefore also the foundation of Texas and Tarrant County is largely Christian, evangelical. Our laws used to be based on that viewpoint. So, when it comes down to electing a commissioner or multiple commissioners and a county judge, we ought to elect a person who represents the chief values of Tarrant County. Now, it's true. Let me back up a little bit. It's true that the demographics are changing. There was an argument made that they denied this request in 2021. I get that. They, being the Commissioner's Court, said, we're not going to redistrict because you do it every 10 years per the constitutional requirement. The census should be taken every 10 years. They denied it, and they turned it down in 2021, and now they're trying to redo it again. Meaning they're bringing the issue back up 3.5 years later to now officially redistrict. The left is claiming that they're trying to do it because it's becoming a more Democrat county. That might actually be true. I don't doubt that there's more Democrats moving in. They're moving in from California, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Washington. I know this because I've spoken with a lot of people across Tarrant County as well, and across multiple Dallas County. Dallas. Yeah, I guess Frisco would be in Dallas County, but all over the DFW Metroplex. I've spoken with a lot of people. I drove Uber for 8 years. 4 of those were here in DFW, so I met not hundreds, thousands and thousands of different people. So I've met them. I've spoken with them. That is true. They're moving in. So the left claims you're moving in. You don't want to lose your conservative majority. So that's that. Yeah, we got you. Well, no, you didn't get us, because if you were in the same boat, you'd be doing the same thing. I have no issue with using political tactics that are legal to achieve our political ends. That's a conclusion I came to a couple years ago, because I was a little bit more of an ideologue in that way. Well, no, if it's the right way and the left still wins it. No, we should do things according to the law. But if it's within the law and it looks a little politically sketchy, well, I don't really understand why that matters. What matters to me is making sure that conservatism is the type of government that we are operating under, making sure that we don't have LGBT policies, making sure that transgenderism isn't in our classrooms, making sure that child porn isn't in libraries, making sure that contracts are not being made for DEI candidates, personnel, offices, you name it, across the board in Tarrant County. And by the way, I'm not just addressing the Commissioner's Court. I'm addressing the school board and the city council at this point too. Now, the left may freak out over that. Maybe you're watching this and you're going, I can't believe you just said that. Like, that sounds so bigoted to me. It's not bigoted. We all have a worldview. It goes back to a question that I frequently bring up on this show. We all have a worldview. A worldview, meaning a religion, will reign supreme in law. I hope you heard that clearly. So when you elect somebody to public office, and I hear this all the time, so take Nate Schatzline, for instance, Representative Nate Schatzline, who we love dearly. He goes before his constituents, and let's say it's about 200,000 people he represents. Let's say all 200,000 people give him their view, and they say, hey, this is what we think about this issue. Let's say all 200,000 of them have a different view. Do you think that it's reasonable for Mr. Nate Schatzline or Representative Nate Schatzline to adopt all 200,000 views? No, he is not going to do that. That is impossible. That's so unreasonable. No, he's going to take his prudence and the wisdom he has and the understanding he has in government and knowledge he has from the people in his district, and come together. And he's going to say, here, I think this is the best way forward for our community, for our district, and for the people on their behalf. Even though they may disagree, I do think this is the best way forward for our common good, something the founding fathers used to talk a lot about. Now, you may think, well, I don't think that that's for the common good. Well, then you can run for office and try and get him out. I will push against that and I will resist that, obviously, but you can try that, and that's up to you. But that is the reality. And so the same applies to a Christian conservative who may live in a district that is represented by a very leftist liberal. Maybe the leftist liberal is pushing all the policies that the Christian conservative doesn't like. Well, the leftist liberal might say, well, I'm here to represent all people. You're really not. You're actually just representing the people that you align with, and hopefully in doing so, it benefits the people that disagree with you. I happen to disagree with that and say that that is not the case with leftism. It only helps a few people and it hurts everyone else, because killing babies is not a good thing. Cutting kids' body parts off and calling a boy a girl is not a good thing. Raising taxes to push people out of their homes in their county is not a good thing. I could just go down the line of things that are not good with the leftist ideology and the political viewpoints they carry. But I digress on that point. I want to get back to the commissioner's court and explain a little bit more of what that looks like going forward. And keep in mind, I just addressed the Christian nationalism argument. This is something people have to be aware of. This is what you've got to be aware of. We've got to get down to the point where we don't necessarily have to hide what we're trying to do or say. I mean, there's some political prudence in keeping your strategy close to heart. There is political prudence in that. But ultimately, we should be honest with people and saying, yeah, you want the same thing. The left has been gaslighting us on this issue for weeks now, saying, you want to do this for racist reasons. No. You're doing it for racist reasons because you literally are saying you're disenfranchising our black voters. Well, black voters don't all vote Democrat. There's many of them that vote Republican. And that's something the conservatives rightly brought up in these commissioner court meetings and town hall meetings, that Trump supporters are large. There's a lot of them that are black. A lot of black men and women came over to Trump in the 2024 election. So then the left freaked out and said, well, in our precinct, what does that even matter? Who cares if Trump won? It matters because the left is pitching it as if these black voters are theirs. The left and the Democratic Party are saying, these black voters, don't touch them, they belong to us. No, they don't. They don't belong to the left at all. They belong to whomever they want to vote for. That's who they belong to. And that right there is the issue. That's what we're really debating here. So the only way forward for them right now is to say, hey, this is racist. Also, there's a legal point to that, which I won't get into a lot of because I haven't researched all of it. But I will say this. The Supreme Court has already upheld that districts and gerrymandering districts, which is legal, can be done for political purposes. It can't be done for racism or racial purposes. Well, obviously, right? So this is why the left is pitching it as a racial problem, because if they can argue that it's being done for racial purposes, it can go to the Supreme Court and be struck down and considered null and void. You can't redistrict. What we're trying to say is it's not being done for racial purposes. And currently, I believe, as I understand it, the current map that we have right now for the precincts is not legal. Now, do your research, look that up. There's certain things that are actually separated, and there's been a long battle and fight over that. But that comes into play too. So there's all these things surrounding the issue of the Commissioner's Court that are a real problem. And we're trying to maintain, as Commissioner Krause stated, we're trying to maintain a strong conservative majority on the court. That is the truth of the matter. That is the fact of the matter. And anybody who thinks otherwise is fooling themselves. We want a conservative majority. We do not want a liberal majority. Let me flip the script a little bit. If you think the Democrats aren't trying to do the same thing, you're fooling yourselves. They want the same thing. And if they have to lie and cheat and steal their way through it, they'll do it. And right now they're lying their way through it. They're saying you're doing it for racial purposes and you're a bunch of Christian nationalists and we hate your view and we don't like anything you say or think or do. So we want our black voters. Well, actually, we would like them too. We don't just want black voters. We want voters, period, because we don't care about skin color. We care about their heart. We care about their values. We care about their viewpoint. We care about their spirituality and their soul. We care about all those things because they all matter. That's part of the city state. That's part of politics. If it's public, it's political. And this is public, therefore it's political. So to think otherwise is crazy. So what's coming up now? The Commissioner's Court, again, all the town halls are open, closed. That's done. There has been time to come and express your viewpoint. What's coming up now is incredibly important, and we need you to know this. You've got to know this. June 3rd is coming up. Tuesday, June 3rd. I'm pretty sure it's a Tuesday, but it is June 3rd at 10 a.m. at the Commissioner's Court, downtown Fort Worth. You can look it up online, Commissioner's Court, Tarrant County. Type that in, Commissioner's Court, Tarrant County. It's the first thing that pops up. You can look on their website. If you want to sign up, please do so. Please sign up to speak. Speak out in favor of Map 1. And let's come against this ideology and this spirit that's coming against the church and the conservative majority that we currently have on the court. We want to make sure that we maintain that. So come out June 3rd, focus on that, speak. Here's the deal. You need to sign up by 5 p.m. the day before. So this would probably be by 5 p.m. June 2nd. You need to sign up on the website. Now, the portal to speak and the form to fill out the form to speak is not going to open up until 72 hours prior to that 5 p.m. window the day before. So I think it's like Friday and afternoon of around some time. So keep that in mind. You have a 72-hour window to sign up to speak. We need you. We need the church. We need Republicans to come out and support Tim O'Hare and Manny Ramirez and Matt Krause, Commissioner Krause, on Map 1. Please do this much. Email Commissioner Ramirez. He's being resisted heavily. In fact, there were clips of them coming out, and I had heard him actually at the Commissioner's Court this past week. A man got up and called Commissioner Ramirez, quote, a brown boy, end quote. He literally got up and said, yeah, I'm talking. He looks at Manny Ramirez and he says, yeah, I'm talking about you, brown boy. That's super racist. Like, they say we're doing it for racial reasons, and yet they keep bringing up race, and then they're calling people they don't like, even if they're close to their skin color, they're calling them racist slurs. Guys, not one single conservative ever got up and mentioned skin color as their reason for opposing or supporting their initiative. That's the reality. That's what we're up against. So June 3rd, show up, 10 a.m., Commissioner's Court, be there, sign up, speak, show up. Please, we need this. This matters a ton. You got to be there for Tim O'Hare, Commissioner Ramirez, Commissioner Krause. We want you to show up. We're going to be there. I will be there. But we need you to show up because this is so important. We've got to maintain our conservative majority. And I also want to challenge you with this. You've got to stop worrying about the federal elections. Those are important. Don't get me wrong. You should vote in those. But you've got to focus on the local level. The local level is important. So show up to the local level elections. Show up to the Commissioner's Court on June 3rd, 10 a.m. Get there early, by the way. Get there early because seats will be there. I mean, I'm talking like at least an hour early. I got to the town hall at Krause's Commissioner Court an hour and a half early, and people are already showing up. So you got to get there early. But you take a few hours out of your day, show up and hit it, and we'll be golden, I think. So with that said, I thank you all for tuning in. Remember to share this content, share this episode, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Instagram, you name it, X account, all those things. Make sure you are following the For Liberty and Justice podcast. And with that said, I want to thank you for tuning in. Show up again June 3rd, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the For Liberty and Justice podcast, where we seek to mobilize the church, wake up the city, and take a stand for liberty and justice in the governmental realm. Hey, look, we'd love for you to follow us on all of our social media at For Liberty and Justice. Subscribe to the podcast, share it with a friend. And if you're looking to get involved, we'd love for you to either launch a chapter or join a chapter in your local area so we can keep fighting for liberty and justice together. You can do that by going to forlibertyandjustice.us and signing up today. Let's keep fighting to mobilize the church, wake up the city, and take a stand for liberty and justice together.